It's interesting about professional now with auditing too. Certainly in Victoria, but certainly across the country. When I audit an organisation and I look at a trainer's credentials, one thing I now must see is a matrix that shows that a trainer has got the competency to deliver the units of competency in the qualification that's identified in the delivery assessment strategy. So how do we do that? Okay, I'm delivering Certificate 3 in retail. I've got the Certificate 3 in retail. Now we know with the Certificate 3 in retail, there's a relatively small number of core units, a large number of electives. If I've got the Certificate 3 in retail, which electives do I have? And we know with commercial cookery, for example, I've got a Certificate 3 in commercial cookery, some people don't have the unit that relates to cooking meat. But yet we ask them to teach students how to cook meat. So it becomes really relevant. Do we have the competency to deliver the units that we deliver? So I need to see these training matrices. And these training managers are saying, we can never get our trainers to do that. How do we get our trainers to do that? They wouldn't do that. And I said, well, if they're professionals, they would. Professionals are keen to know what their competencies are and they're keen to further develop. So what would you suggest we do with our organisation? I said, well, I tell you people that you only employ professionals. And one thing that professionals do is they understand where they're at and they build on that. Now, if they're not prepared to do that, they're not professional, are they? And you can make an additive. We only employ professionals. Professionals do professional things. Really, if you don't want to do that, there's no place for you here. It's a bit difficult with the skills shortage. But this professionalism is a really important thing that we need to look at in education and really relevant to language literacy and numeracy professionals, which means that probably for the type of work that we do, a new entrant from year 12 might be a little bit difficult. For them, this professionalism takes on a whole new meaning and a lot of work. Okay, looking at what came out of this research, and if we look at the profile of and I'm saying an LLM practitioner, here you could just say well practitioner because that's where the data comes from, okay? One of the profiles that is not included in there is probably the profile that we see here. What do you think that might be? It's largely women that go into this area. Okay, we have seen quite significant change over the last couple of years. We were a bit worried when we did this project this year. As Wingman said, we interviewed people, well practitioners in terms of their experiences, why they're there and why they stay there. We ended up with, surprisingly, through a self-selective group, quite a good balance of men and women. So we can see the environment changes. Maybe it says something about workplace language literacy and numeracy, and language literacy and numeracy in other areas. I don't know. But certainly through this research too, we found the majority of people were women, but there's a whole range of other factors that might mean that why that is the case. So, okay, largely women with 2 or more qualifications, which probably reflects our pathway. We go into one area and then we move forward. Okay, and about half came through language literacy and numeracy after teaching, primary and secondary, which is probably quite reflective of what we identified here today. Would you agree? Okay, we identified there's a whole range of undergraduate qualifications with regard to English as a second language and adult literacy fields. Okay, but there isn't an agreement on what is the benchmark qualification for the LLM practitioner. Okay, small number of new entrants. We're saying that this might be a connection with the qualification pathway to get to where we are. And usually if we're doing this planning at the start of our careers, and we know those qualifications to get there, we've got a chance of following it. There is very few pathways that would lead us into our current work. There's that qualifications that would say, well, okay, this is what you do to get here. The scene is changing a little bit now. Okay. Bearing in mind that when we look at delivering the ESL qualifications, that course is very prescriptive about the qualification requirements of people who deliver that. And I know of the qualifications in language literacy and numeracy that I audit, this is probably the most rigorous. And it says quite clearly, when I audit international colleges, a lot of them have got ESL on their scope, they don't have appropriately qualified people. So they're wanting to put ESL in their scope, or I'm auditing them for a re-registration order or something, and they're delivering ESL, but they don't have appropriately qualified people according to the requirement. And what they say is because they're so difficult to find, which I find interesting. Of course, they're non-compliant, so they have to do something about it. Okay, qualifications of our well practitioners. Interesting how they don't all have certificate for. Majority do. Some are obviously delivering under direct supervision. Direct supervision now is seen as a pathway to the qualification. The national, the NSSC, this new body set up. They're actually saying now that with direct supervision, that's only to occur for a person for no more than 2 years, and also it can only happen if they're currently enrolled in a TAE, TAA qualification. So that landscape is also changing. Other undergraduate degrees in teaching and in non-teaching, postgraduate TESOL and adult literacy, etc. So you can see the qualifications are there. Employment status. Now I find this quite interesting too, because I think we're probably attracted to this area of work because of the flexibility with regard to employment arrangements. And I find a lot of my colleagues work part-time in this area, and they've moved to that because I want to work part-time, and I can do it if I do it in the language literacy numeracy field. Interesting, when I did the workshop up in Cairns about a month ago, the diversity of very part-time people and very mature people. And I found, yes, we like to live up here, they come from all parts of the country, they want to continue working part-time, and they're getting to work in LLME, which is interesting, isn't it? One thing with that, with regard to the WELL program, is that security of employment. And there is that lack of security, it's depending on getting the WELL programs, isn't it? So people can sit around and wait for that employment as well. In Cairns, people don't seem to mind. Okay, when we then look at what it takes to be a WELL practitioner, in terms of qualifications, there was probably more other stuff that it takes to be a WELL practitioner. The only problem with that is we don't want to sell short the qualification, but the qualification sits in the background. So there's a whole range of other things that we need. Now, if we look at them, are they skills and knowledge? Many of them are considered as attributes. Can we train to attributes? Some people believe that we can, some people believe that we can't. Some people believe that we develop attributes as a whole range of experiences. Is there something that the language literacy and numeracy practitioner who would attract something? Okay, these skills are used in a whole range of different things. And it's interesting, when we did the interviews for this, one of the things in the background was that why do people go into WELL delivery? This is that working with adults in the workplace language literacy and numeracy, and why do they stay there? Certainly the reflections that we got was that working in the workplace with adults, language literacy and numeracy, is an extremely difficult job. You're juggling many, many balls. If it's so difficult, then why do people stay there? And the response to that was because people get almost immediate satisfaction out of what they do. They can see their learners grow in front of them. So they get this instantaneous feedback, hey, I'm having an impact. Compared to classroom teaching, well, we might see some growth. People complete a course. Do we know how much they've really grown when they complete the course? In the workplace, we can see that things happen, not only in the workplace, but also in their personal lives. So key issues relating to the provision of current professional development activities include decreasing opportunities to achieve the adult literacy qualifications through the higher education sector. So we find that they're being decreased. Lack of consistent induction training for entry-level LLM practitioners. One thing that we found with the WELL program, though, and the interviews was the big emphasis on the support of professional development, particularly for someone entering WELL. And what really amazed me was some organisations provide a mentor for up to 12 months, which is really fantastic, isn't it? We can work in this area and we can work with a mentor for 12 months. A number of people interviewed that with a mentor, as well as receiving the mentoring. It was really heartwarming to see that that was the case. Lack of opportunities for collegial networking. Very difficult, we found, for wild practitioners, but where it occurred, it was fantastic. When people actually made the effort and were able to. And there seemed to be more around, if you're a wild practitioner, you work in the workplace. Many of us work in isolation, and it's really difficult to get together. But when we do, we take the greatest advantage of it. And the lack of opportunities to share experiences. The inconsistent nature of current professional development, specifically for wild practitioners, and we've seen in the last couple of years through networks, it's happening. I think we've relied on our own individual institutions up until now, but we can see that climate also changing. Okay, then when we look specifically the language literacy and numeracy field, okay, we can talk about managing projects, etc., but specifically language literacy and numeracy, again, it's a difficult area in which we can get support. And lack of professional development that had been undertaken by our wild practitioners. It's quite a large number.